Hey guys, Spacey here, back in my home state of New York. I tell you what, I have a renewed appreciation for this place. I'm enjoying the crisp autumn air and the colorful foliage. Just had my coffee this morning, and I'm here to give you guys a video on TE and TI. So, extroverted thinking is a causality-oriented process before anything else, I would say. It occupies the space in between inputs and outputs, right? If I do this, what happens? Or what do I want to happen, and what do I need to do to make it happen? It's all about what seems to be working in front of you as you act. All right? It's a utility-oriented process in a similar manner to extroverted feeling in some way. They're both looking for results and how best to get those results. The difference is TE is working with objects in the most general sense. And even when TE users are working with people, it tends to treat them like objects. At its worst, it will literally treat people like objects that don't have any feeling or importance other than the achievement of a goal. So, TE users, especially when they're using TE to its fullest capacity, are going to be very good at managing people, right? You may confuse them for FE users sometimes because they can really know how to work the crowd and tell people what they want to hear sometimes. But oftentimes you'll see them treating social interaction sort of like a game theory situation, right? Where everyone is just an equivalent rational actor who is just looking to achieve a certain goal and is engaging in voluntary trade and negotiation with other people in order to satisfy each other's wants and needs. And, there's not a lot of personal attachment to that process, And oftentimes they're right, Like, a TE user may go to a restaurant frequently and act like kind of an asshole, but tip really well, so the waiters really don't care because they deal with assholes that don't tip all the time. So they know how to give people what they want, and they know how to get what they want. Right? These are the kinds of people, TE users, they're not going to make a lot of excuses, and they're not going to have a lot of patience for people who do, because they're always solution focused. Right? If they're having problems, they're like, okay, how do I accomplish this? I got to do something. I have to structure things such that I achieve my goals. They're not going to sit on their hands. They're, honestly, even more than extroverted sensing dominance, they're going to be more likely to take decisive action in order to accomplish things that need to be accomplished. Because they're going to know instinctively how to do it, or how to figure out how to do it. They're not going to be like a TI user like me, who sometimes you may have heard going like, oh, I'm too tired, I'm exhausted, I don't feel like it, I don't know how to do it, I can't figure it out. No, TI users can figure it out one way or another. And even if they don't, they're going to try, and they'll deal with the consequences later. TE users are going to be the most common people you find in maybe computer programming positions. Contrary to popular belief, INTPs are not going to be your typical programmer nerd person. In fact, I would say people with TE high in the stack are your more stereotypically nerdy people, in the sense that, they're very interested in things like programming, science, engineering, things where you can just kind of plug in a variable or plug in the right, words or numbers and, get the desired result or get some kind of definitive result. TI is much more of an abstract process where we're kind of looking to find the great universal truths of the universe that you really can't arrive at with any real conclusiveness. We're kind of, analyzing things that never really quite yield to analysis. TE users are going to have a much more pragmatic approach. They're going to want to know how things work when it comes to actually achieving a desired end, like they're the ones who are making scientific advancements that actually improve our productivity and our quality of life in a meaningful, tangible way. They're not often going to get stuck thinking about things that don't have any direct bearing on reality. TE is often going to speak very bluntly. They're going to be like, this is how I understand things work, and I'm going to tell you, and I might even call you an idiot if you don't listen to me or agree, because clearly what I'm doing works, and what you're doing is not working. You're going to hear people like Ben Shapiro, who is obviously a TE Dom, say things like, facts don't care about your feelings. And they probably don't really care about their own feelings very much either. And yet, they're going to be driven by their introverted feeling on the back end, and they're going to highly value being efficient and being productive, and it kind of demonstrates how FI is not always really a very emotional process, but it still lends a certain attachment to outcomes. And so TE users will sometimes blindly and aggressively pursue their goals, kind of because of how they feel in a certain sense, or what they desire, more accurately. And they're going to ignore a lot of other functions and variables in the process, and perhaps burn some bridges and alienate people at their worst. However, understand that, like I said, TE users are responsible for a large amount of scientific advancement, societal organization, political structures, governments, bureaucracies, all these things that a lot of people, especially these days, are growing tired of, but aren't really willing to take care of themselves. So, although the TE users in your life may seem controlling, or rude, or insensitive, or whatever the case may be, right? They're just trying to help. They're just trying to make things better. Sometimes they're just trying to make things better for themselves, but we can all be selfish. So, if you're struggling with the TE users in their life, please understand that they're trying to make things better for everyone, like they've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years. And if you can do better, you're welcome to try. But you probably can't do better because you're not a TE Dom. Generally, what they really want is just a little bit of appreciation, right? Tickle their introverted feeling a little bit. Let them know that you appreciate all the effort that they put in to make sure that their families and their societies are okay. What else? TE, yes. Programmers, scientists, engineers, right? Dealing with external, dynamic, complex systems. They also tend to get into things like business, law, economics, logistics, even something like construction. You'll see a lot of TE DOMs in high-level positions in construction projects, right? They'll be your foreman, your general contractor, the guy overseeing things, making sure that you have all the materials you need, that things are getting done in an organized and timely manner. It's really important. They know the logistics. They know what they need and how to get things done. I guess another thing I should mention is that TE in and of itself is not always going to be dealing with concrete things that you can see in front of you, especially in intuitive types that have TE in their conscious stack, meaning their first 4 functions, you're going to see TE have an ability to still be able to envision causality-oriented processes in their minds, right? They can work with abstract concepts, right? They can work with variables and symbols in their heads, right? They're often on the cutting edge of scientific research, right? Don't underestimate types like ENFPs or ENTJs, right? And their ability to deal with, complex abstract systems. Even ESTJs, when they're smart enough and their extroverted intuition is well developed, they're going to be capable of some pretty amazing things that you don't normally associate with boring old TE users. On that note, you'll see oftentimes as TE DOMs get older, or even TE second tool users get older, their 3rd or 4th slot extroverted sensing or extroverted intuition will kick in a little bit, and it'll help them play. Meaning that in order to become a little bit more personal and seem less, blunt or robotic, they'll start throwing in a lot of humor or funny faces or, things to take the edge off and seem more personable and, relate to people and humanize themselves. Have a little fun with life. Now, moving on to TI. TI and TE can both be similar in the sense that they can be a little blunt when they're speaking to people, when they're speaking their truths. But you'll see TI users with FE, extroverted feeling, on the back end of their stack will probably be a little more careful trying to articulate things in just the right way that it might be appropriately received by their audience. They'll spend a lot more time mulling over what they're going to say, partially because they don't already know exactly what they're going to say, which is going to be kind of a difference between perceiver, meaning somebody with an introverted judging function and an extroverted perceiving function, and the judger is going to be somebody with an extroverted judging function and an introverted perceiving function, which means they're often going to be much more sure about what they already know, and they're going to have it lined up in their head already when they speak. They're going to speak much more quickly and bluntly and decisively, right? TI users are going to be a little bit more unsure of themselves and a little bit more careful about what they say. TI is a process that, on one hand, allows you to articulate yourself extremely accurately. They'll tend to have a large vocabulary built up to that end. They're the ones who are going to be able to carefully split hairs in between words that technically have different meanings or different connotations, and they're going to be highly aware of those. Sometimes they're going to deconstruct things and get into such specifics that almost nobody can actually follow them, and what they say becomes essentially meaningless. Very, very high level TI processing is going to result in, beliefs and awarenesses that cannot often be articulated because the language is simply insufficient to detail it. And so these things remain symbols inside of the head of the TI user that, work themselves into their internal belief and knowledge structures, but can't be accurately explained to others, which can be a little alienating to us. We're trying to get to, TI users are really trying to get to the bottom of everything, right? We want to know what is universally true about everything. We're not looking for what's functional or what seems to be the case, right? We often hate being told a bunch of things that seem to be the case but don't seem to have been thought through. People can get annoyed with us because people are walking around with what seems to be a bunch of assumptions built on top of other incorrect assumptions that are really just things that they've been told, and they never bothered to look into them themselves, and they don't even actually know that it's true, but they just assume and believe that it's true. And we're trying to tell people desperately, please listen to me. I know this seems to be true, but I can explain to you, if you'll just listen to me long enough, that that may not actually be the case, and you have a lot of false assumptions that have been steering your life and ruining the world. You know, on the other hand, sometimes we have to realize that we can spend all the time we want thinking about what's actually true, but it's not going to change a damn thing, right? We have to actually get into a position of authority or a position of power in order to affect any change or get people to listen to us. And we can't really just sit there in the peanut gallery deconstructing and criticizing what other people are doing, when at least they're doing something, although they may not be very good at figuring out exactly what they're supposed to do. So the job of the TI user is to identify very tiny, clear, and specific leverage points that need to be focused on. And then we need someone else, maybe a TE user, to build a system around that leverage point. Right? We're good at stripping away what is unnecessary or irrelevant to us, at least. Right? We're stripping away everything that is wrong, or everything that is, you know, not true or incorrect or false or whatever word or term you want to use, until we get down to the very essence of something. Right? We're constantly deconstructing things. We're taking away information. We're often not even looking for new information. You don't actually see us doing that much research or collecting empirical data. Right? We're getting down to the core essence of things, that quiet, meditative stillness where the truth of all things suddenly clicks into place in your mind and you can finally move forward. Right? Once we've identified what we're searching for, which can take ages, or we may never find it, then we feel like we can move forward and start, you know, building an epistemology that we can work with. You know, we have to have some kind of filter that I envision kind of like a crystalline, you know, spider web structure that expands outward and is kind of multifaceted and holographic, right? Every little point has a bunch of different perspectives surrounding it. So I'd also like to know in the comments if any TI users or maybe FI users identify with a love of kaleidoscopes and Rubik's Cubes and things that have lots of twists and turns and angles and reflections. And once we have this structure in place, then we can use it as an accurate filter with which to analyze incoming data. If the incoming data seems to clash with our structure, then we're going to scramble to change our structure and see where we went wrong. Because unlike TE users, we have to think about what's true before we even do anything. And our theories that we build then have to be tested against reality. Whereas TE users are usually just doing things, seeing what works and what doesn't work, right? And then systematizing it in a way that can be used by others, right? They want things to be repeatable and consistent. Let's see here. TI. Okay. I was going to turn around now. Yeah, TI with FE on the back end is going to struggle to align their own understandings of things with the understandings of others. Right? We're always going to try to explain things to other people in a succinct enough or relatable enough way that other people can tell us whether we're right or wrong, rather than just losing patience with us or telling us to just shut up and do things the way they're supposed to be done. And there's a certain truth to that, because you got to remember, TI users, that you can think about stuff all you want, but you might fucking die tomorrow. And when you die, all the thinking you've done won't mean anything. The only things that will matter are what you've actually done. And so, as a TI dominant person, especially an INTP, ISTPs don't seem to have too much trouble getting stuck in their thoughts because their extroverted sensing tool function is going to drive them to experience more things. And so they won't be stuck in their rooms and in their heads quite as frequently, but you'll still see ISTPs who may confuse themselves for INTPs because they're not really engaging their tool function enough and they're still stuck in their heads, maybe in their TI-NI loop, meaning just chewing back over what they've already experienced to see if they missed anything. Because we'll do that a lot. We'll constantly doubt ourselves. We'll constantly be trying to see other angles of things, trying to stay neutral, right? Trying to only speak the truth. And if we can't speak the truth, we may not want to say anything at all, because part of knowing the truth kind of means being the truth, right? We want to act out what we know to be true, right? We want to be the arbiters of truth. We don't want to speak falsehoods. We don't want to act in an incorrect or immoral way that doesn't align with what is true and what is good. And I know FI is often what's associated with ethics and morals and whatnot, but I find a lot of TI users to be aggressively moral people who try as hard as we can to represent the truth of the universe within ourselves. And it can cause us to doubt ourselves a lot. We tend to be trapped in negative emotions because we don't feel like we deserve to be happy unless we've done right. And that can end up causing a lot of damage and stress when we really just need to work with what we know and move on and have more experiences so that we can discern with better accuracy whether we really were right or wrong. You know? And it's important to remember that you got to engage your extroverted intuition or your extroverted sensing behind your TI to basically have fun, play around a little bit, stop being so serious, right? Have fun with life, have more interesting experiences, and trust that your TI will do the analysis that it needs to do. It's okay to be wrong for a while because you know that as soon as you realize that you're wrong, then you'll correct it. There's no point sitting around trying to figure out what's true when you don't even have enough information to determine that yet. So, I think that's a pretty good video right there. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you around.